everyone. Welcome to another episode of the
Geek.
Oh, come on.
So sad.
Oh, we don't have buddies by Shannon McClung. Sadly, unfortunately, Shannon is a little bit under the weather. He got an infection and had an adverse reaction to
He does not have corona.
He's not corona, right? He does not have corona. That's why I said infection, not disease. Corona. He has an infection from a cut, and an adverse reaction to the medicine, so he couldn't join us. It was kind of last minute. He pulled out, but we do have someone joining us later on in the show as a third kind of new honorary geek buddy for a little bit, and that's our friend Tim Sheridan. Mike, he wrote this new animated WB Superman film called Superman Man of Tomorrow. We're going to sit down with him and talk for about 30 minutes about his experience doing that. That's going to be the tail end of the show. But we're going to do our best to soldier on, you and I, Mike. Let's introduce ourselves. I am John Boyega, the writer, producer, and host here on the Outlaw Nation.
And I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies, and big Superman fan. So very excited to talk to Tim later. Superman Man of Tomorrow is an amazing new movie, totally new direction, totally new visual style for Warner Brothers Animation. So definitely, if you are a Superman person, if you are a DC animation fan, stay tuned for all of that. And in the meantime, we have a ton to talk about without Shannon here this week.
I know we do. It's a shame because there's so much Shannon could have contributed to if he hadn't got infected. But by the way, can we give some love to my Empire Strikes Back? I mean, like that's a new 40th, my 40th,
nice,
my 40th anniversary poster. I mean, can we talk about? Look at that. I mean, look at the Star Wars saga continues, son. That's what I'm talking about.
I just have a Gay Pride Disney ears, a hand knit BMO, and Twilight Sparkle, and it's not the same. It's not the same.
Well,
it's not as good.
That's fair. That's fair. I appreciate that. Well, we're going to get into some stories, and of course, we're going to trade off and on these Geek Buddies stories. For those of you who are new to our show, thank you so much for taking a chance on us. And for those of you who downloaded us, thank you for taking a chance to listen to us on the podcast as well and coming aboard. For those of you who are returned, thank you so much for sticking with us. But how the show works is each of us presents a geek news item and we talk about it. Usually we'll do 3 geek news items and then jump into a main topic. But today, since we have that interview, we're just going to go through 4 topics and each of us introducing them and then get into it without our boy Shannon McClung here with us. And we should definitely start off, Mike, and we'd be remiss not to with a tribute to Chadwick Boseman, who passed away last Friday. Surprisingly, last Friday evening, it was tweeted out. People were in shock. People didn't want to believe it. People were hit completely out of left field. So many people broke down in tears. So many people were just incredibly taken aback by the passing of Chadwick Boseman, 43 years old, passing from colon cancer. He had been fighting it for 4 years, and he had shot Black Panther, MCU movies, SNL skits. He'd been to visit Make-A-Wish foundations, all of that. In between his chemotherapy, in between his surgeries, he endured barbs from people online because he was losing weight from the cancer, from the treatment for the cancer. In between these movies and TV shows, and endured all of it, and then sadly passed away and got married just before he passed away. But he passed away surrounded by his family and friends there. So, Mike, what was your reaction, and what's your feeling now as you've had a few days since his passing?
It was crazy. I mean, first of all, I was out of town this weekend on a quick trip, and I was chatting with friends on Friday night, and I had my phone put down, and I just glanced over at my phone at one point and saw that I had 30 texts.
Wow!
And I was like, "What happened?" And every text was the exact same thing. We've had a lot of, there's been a lot of amazing people who have passed in the past several years. Anyone passing is always a tragedy. But it's been a while since I've seen someone's passing hit that hard, that fast, where everybody in the world kind of got gut punched at the same time. Mm-hmm. And this was that. It was so sad. It was so sudden. It was so unexpected. And then when you hear that he had been struggling with this for so long and still did all of these movies and did all of the amazing things, like you never would have known. Yeah. And, a lot of people have been saying this online, and it's true that you never know what someone's going through. Like Johnny, like you said, he caught a lot of flack for being skinny on a red carpet.
Yeah.
I remember there was one picture of him. It was at Infinity War or an Endgame it was one of the movie premieres where he kind of was doing the Wakanda Forever, but he kind of had like a neutral expression. He wasn't grinning big.
Right.
All the articles were like, he's tired of doing the Wakanda Forever. He hates being Black Panther. Like there was all these articles that were kind of assigning what that expression was. And the expression was probably that he was tired.
Yeah.
Like with everything that he was going through.
Yeah.
It's so, and particularly, you can't, it's hard for me to separate Chadwick Boseman, the actor passing, along with what Chadwick Boseman as King T'Challa in Black Panther meant to so many people, particularly at this point in our history where we are dealing with everything that we are dealing with every day as we are facing systemic racism, talking about racism, talking about the way that that Black people and people of color are treated in our country, in our entertainment industry, in film, in our storytelling, and to have him pass, who represented so much to so many people as King T'Challa, it was definitely one of those fuck 2020 moments. It was absolutely a fuck 2020 moment. Like it was too much. Like I was like, I can barely make it through the last few months of this year, and this one just completely blindsided me in the worst possible way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I would say that that this was very similar to when Kobe Bryant died at the beginning of the year. A lot of people out in left field. Even if you weren't a sports fan, he had won an Oscar with a short film I think a year or two before. He had turning completely his life into a post basketball kind of legacy to follow for young Black people moving into the entertainment business. He wanted to be the change as well, and then you see this with what Chadwick Boseman was doing. And Chadwick, from the beginning, wanted to forge a path as a Black actor that was not catering to stereotypical roles. And that's something that really you have to savor and cherish now as we look back on his life, as we look on his legacy. It is about that he stood for something more, and he took roles that symbolized that. He never played a gangbanger, he never played a drug dealer, and those things that sometimes the white controlled film and television spheres will kind of assign to Black people or Black actors, because Black actors just want to work, and sometimes they have to take these jobs to fund whatever they want to do next. But Chadwick did not want to do that, and he played incredibly powerful historical characters like Jackie Robinson. I mean, passing away on Jackie Robinson Day, that's insane in terms of the timing. Thurgood Marshall, James Brown, so many great roles he's played throughout the years.
His filmography is it's the definition of Black excellence.
Yes. Oh, great.
I mean, it is the definition of Black excellence, the roles that he played, which is why his passing meant so much to so many people. Yeah. It's rough. And the fact that, I was just reading an article today in Hollywood Reporter about Disney and Marvel and what's going to be happening, but like that he really did keep this secret. My brother and I were talking about it, and my brother said, well, Ryan Coogler must have known. But when you read Ryan Coogler's amazing words that he wrote about Chadwick's passing, I mean, one of the things he said was that it was so hard for him because he was in the process of writing dialogue for this man to say, and then to find this out just completely blindsided him as well. That apparently most people at Marvel, like very, very few people knew about this. Yeah. And of course, everyone right now is just dealing with their emotion about this amazing person on and off screen passing. And of course, the next thing that we will all be talking about is what does this mean for Marvel moving forward? What does this mean for Black Panther? And, obviously a lot of people are on Team Shuri for this and hoping she picks up the mantle. I really do hope, like right now, this is the least important thing about it. Like the fact that he's passed and the fact that we've lost this amazing talent is the bigger, more important thing here than what happens in cinematic universe. But I really would say, all I would say on it is I hope they don't recast him. Yeah. And I hope they don't go down the Rise of Skywalker road where they take some Chadwick Boseman footage and CG him up to I just hope that whatever happens with Black Panther 2 moving forward, the character of King T'Challa is laid to rest because nobody else is going to play him. Nobody else can be him, I think, now that Chadwick Boseman has played him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll keep tabs on it for sure. Would you be averse to the idea of somehow them bringing Michael B. Jordan back to life on Wakanda? You know, we've seen them have their powers, their ability to go into the afterlife and speak to his father in the movie. Would it be possible to bring, because people loved his Killmonger, would it be possible to bring him back and turn him into someone who is like understood the lessons of that final conversation with T'Challa and now can step into the mantle and play Black Panther, not T'Challa?
I think, well, that was a lot. I had not considered that.
Okay. I'm Team Shuri, by the way. I'm totally down with Team Shuri. I'm just throwing another option out there.
I am also Team Shuri, but I do think that that is a great option. I mean, look, in the world of comic books, as to your point, when we can go to the ancestral plane and all bets are off, I think, you know, dead is only as dead as it needs to be for however many issues, and then you don't have to be dead anymore. So in the world of comic books, and the fact that I think that Michael B. Jordan is also one of the most excellent actors out there, and the fact that Killmonger is such a interesting and nuanced villain, I think that would definitely be an option. I think that bottom line, T'Challa is T'Challa, and I don't ever want to see anyone else play T'Challa. What happens in the world of Wakanda and how they carry on and who the next Black Panther is, I think is completely open. Yeah. Just like let T'Challa be.
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to handle his passing in the movie. We got to say goodbye to Leia in Rise of Skywalker.
Well, but that's my point.
Yeah,
I will say.
Do you want the movie to pick up after he's passed?
I understand. I'll use Rise of Skywalker as my example, and then we can move on to whatever. But like, I understand the feeling that you need to say goodbye to Carrie Fisher on screen, and so you bring in Leia and you recut the footage, and then she dies, and you have an important moment. But I just feel like none of it felt true to me. Like, we all knew Carrie Fisher was dead. Everything else was smoke and mirrors. And to me, Star Wars works because you open up in the middle of the action anyway. You open up, it's episode 9. We see what's happening. Right. I would have much rather opened episode 9 rather than the dead speak with tragedy has struck the resistance. Right. The resistance now, right? They're right. Not the rebel. Yeah. Tragedy has struck the resistance. General Leia has passed, and open on her funeral and have everybody be lost. I think that would have been a much more appropriate send-off to Carrie Fisher. So similarly, rather than CG T'Challa in the beginning of Black Panther 2 getting killed, I don't want any of that. I want to know that Wakanda is mourning the way that we are all mourning. Yeah. That we will never have a king like King T'Challa, and that that T'Challa's legacy is that he opened up Wakanda to the world. Yeah. And who knows what else he would have done had he not died so suddenly. Right. And that whether it's bringing back Killmonger or Shuri or a new person steps up, whoever is stepping up, the entire movie is, we have to fill these shoes, and they are big shoes to fill. And I think that to me will give the audience a greater catharsis, because it is giving a nod to the reality of this is what happened, rather than manufacturing some CG whateverness. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a great opinion to have. Absolutely. And we'll keep tabs on this and see. Of course, there'll be stories breaking about all of this as it moves forward. I'm sure everybody involved with Black Panther 2 will take a huge step back for a little while, deal with the grief, and then move forward in what they want to do. You know, Marvel's taking some hits now with the COVID situation, kind of knocking them in the face as they start a new phase. The TV shows being pushed back, and now this. And obviously, this is reality. This, and as much as COVID is. And so it's like they're going to have to and then DC Fandom coming in and kind of really taking the world by storm. So it's going to be interesting to see how Marvel reacts to all of this going forward. But I do want to encourage one thing outside the world of the realm of geeks, and that is, if you're a human being and you've been having some gastrointestinal issues, you haven't gone to the doctor, you're one of those men who doesn't want to go to the doctor, I can't encourage you enough. Please go and get yourself checked out. Get the colonoscopy. Don't get lost in the toxic masculine crap that you can't have a rubber tube going up your butthole to make sure that you don't have this colon cancer. You got it, because if they catch it early, you can be saved. You don't have to pass away. You don't have to go to stage 4. So do yourself a favor, get past that. And I hope a lot of these medical companies start to drop the age with which you can get a covered colonoscopy. They have it at 50. It should be down to 35 for everyone, every man and woman, to get a colonoscopy starting at 35 100%. And have it be covered. Yeah, hopefully that has some change in life, and we shall see. There's no easy way to transition out of this sad story, Mike. What are we into next?
Well, speaking of sad stories, nobody was happy with the last season of Game of Thrones. However, Benioff and Weiss are back. Yes. It has been announced that Benioff and Weiss will be adapting the hugely popular sci-fi series. I will mess up this name, but I think it's Liu Cixin's. Cixin. Thank you. Yep. Liu Cixin's Three Body Problem book trilogy, which I have not read. I actually just ordered the book today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It is one of the most hugely popular, some say one of the most influential sci-fi trilogies of modern time. It is Chinese. It has been adapted and translated into English that you can purchase it. But Netflix is adapting the trilogy, and they are adapting it with Game of Thrones showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss.
Yeah.
So obviously this is a loaded thing. On the one hand, like, let's do pros and cons here for a minute.
Okay.
On the one hand, Benioff and Weiss have absolutely proven that given the source material and given a roadmap, they do an amazing adaptation. Nobody can argue that the first 5 seasons for sure, probably 6, if you're really stretching it, 7. The seasons of Game of Thrones that were based on the actual books that existed were fantastic. They followed the books. They delved deeper than the books. They added context for characters. They tweaked characters' journeys. Like, they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
And once they did not have that source material, they did as badly as they were good with the source material. So there's definitely a lot of mixed feelings about Benioff and Weiss. Clearly, they have amazing source material here. Mm-hmm. Clearly, they have something amazing to deal with. The other thing about Benioff and Weiss is that given some of the things that they have been involved with, they've definitely got a little bit of the white guys who kind of step into white guy territory and don't always handle non-white guy things with the greatest tact. I think we all remember the show Confederate that they were attached to at HBO for a while, where it was going to be if slavery had never ended. Is that what it was?
Slavery had never. Yeah.
I think we can all agree, as we live through 2020 right now, that nobody needs to see that shit. So the fact that you have Benioff and Weiss coming in and adapting a Chinese author's work of a Chinese body of science fiction that, from what I understand, having not read it, deals a lot with Chinese history and Chinese culture, definitely is maybe a little bit of a cause for concern. That being said, there are a lot of Chinese people attached as well to the series. So Ryan Johnson, who is not Chinese but is another person, is also attached to the series and executive producer. So huge deal, big series, huge Netflix release. John, what do you? I think I've covered most of the pros and cons. What do you think? Is it good? Bad? Like, I don't know.
I hear you. I think every bit of trepidation you can have in this situation, you should have. They were unceremoniously dumped out of the Star Wars situation because of the season 8 reaction from so many fans. They tried to explain away their season 8 issues, and it wasn't just white guys. It was also white males. With the way they treated Daenerys.
It wasn't white guys. It was also white males.
Exactly.
Thank you for the distinction.
I'm just saying, it wasn't just a white problem. It was a white male problem as well. Like, they went macro and micro at the same time with the issues that had with season 8. So I'm with you. I have a little bit of concern here, but Alexander Wu, who produced The Terror Infamy, he did True Blood, Sleeper Cell. So he's an Asian gentleman who's worked extenuously in the world in this entertainment medium, and so he is going to be there to be guiding this along with Benioff and Weiss. So I imagine any kind of divergent thing that they want to turn into a white experience transposed onto the Chinese experience, I hope will have some resistance, should we say. So I'm good in that way. I like that Ryan's involved in this, but once again, it's another white guy along with Margera, another white guy involved in this. So there is some concern here about how they're going to adapt this and make it feel true to the source material, which is, set in the 60s during the Cultural Revolution and all that was happening in China, and make it feel unique in its own way and not just a white experience with Chinese eyes drawn on top of it, which is what I don't want to see. Yeah.
I will say that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one.
Okay.
Just insofar as, like I said, as much as anybody who is a longtime Geek Buddies listener knows, as much as I really, really was disappointed by that final season of Game of Thrones, yes. I loved the first 6, even 7. I mean, 7 was where I started to have some questions, but I loved it. And I think that this is not the George R.R. Martin situation where there's 3 books and there's another one coming out, but maybe they're going to pass it. And like, there's no issue. Like, this trilogy is a trilogy and it exists. They have the source material. Yep. This is where they are good. Yeah. So I'm going to go into this excited and give them the benefit of the doubt that this is what they do well, and hopefully they do it well here. But definitely, no matter where you fall on this, everybody is going to be watching this VV closely.
Yeah, agreed. And there are some interesting people involved, but this is part of their overall $200 million deal. And maybe if you give them a bit of the doubt, you can stretch it out to the point that maybe they felt they couldn't do what they wanted to do with Star Wars. Maybe there was some resistance. They wanted to maybe push the boundaries of Star Wars a little bit in their own way, because this trilogy is an existential trilogy that's really fascinating. It has a little bit of those V vibes to it, in that the alien race that comes down to kind of take over the Earth, there are political parties within that alien race that are battling each other about what they're doing towards Earth. So that's a fascinating new approach that you can have within this, that can push the boundaries of like political stuff, existential stuff. What does it mean to be to exist in this universe and to take over human, like all of that. So it can be explored. And I hope they find the nuance of it. And with a budget like Netflix has, Mike, they're going to have some incredible visuals, because with the limited budget they had at HBO with Game of Thrones, they were able to create some phenomenal visuals, but couldn't really go all the way with it because of the limited amount of money they could spend per episode. It seems like with Netflix, they're not going to have that issue in this situation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go in excited about this. And like I said, I actually just bought the book. I'm wrapping up the series that I'm reading right now, and I needed something new to read. And I think this will be that. So cool. I'm gonna check it out.
All right.
We do. We have 2 more things before our big interview.
Yeah, we do have 2 more things. I'm gonna put you solo because I'm gonna grab some water real quick while you talk. What's our next thing?
What, you gonna leave me?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave you. Can I do that?
Right, you get out of here. You get out of here.
No, I can't.
Whoa!
I can't do that. All right, it's you, buddy. Oh no, wait! I think I can do it. For everybody that is just listening to this right now and not watching, John is trying to figure this thing out and is sending me all over the place. He got it. All right. Well, while John is gone for a second, it's just us guys. It's just you. It's just me. I'm just talking to you right now. So in Disney animation news, some big stuff happened. Raya and the Last Dragon, which is the next Disney feature animated film coming out, the 59th film produced by the studio. Big news on the talent side. Cassie Steele from Degrassi Next Generation was originally supposed to be voicing Raya, but Disney has come out and said they are changing that. And Kelly Marie Tran, known to most people as Rose Tico from Star Wars The Last Jedi and barely seen in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, is now going to be playing the heroine in this brand new film. Raya and the Last Dragon, the plot that has been released thus far, as an evil force threatens the fictional kingdom of Kumandra, Raya and her trusty steed Tuk Tuk must leave the Heartland home and track down Sisu, played by Awkwafina, the last dragon, to help stop the villainous Droon. However, Sisu is stuck in human form and needs Raya's help to reclaim her power and become her true dragon self.
So in addition to replacing the lead voice actress and having Kelly Marie Tran come in, the movie has apparently been rewritten by Qui Nguyen after Adele Lim was previously listed as the sole screenwriter, and they've done some shifting on the directing. So they're saying that this is a result of COVID, stay at home, needing more help, needing more hands on deck. A lot of people are saying that they weren't 100% happy with the film, and they're taking this Corona break and opportunity to push the movie back and make some last minute changes. This isn't rare. In a lot of animated movies, Toy Story 2 was completely done in the last few months before it came out and became one of the most beloved sequels of all time. Sure. So there's always the possibility this is going to work out. It's not in an animated film. I will say it is less worrisome when you make a lot of last minute changes than it is in a live action film where you go and have all these last minute reshoots. But yeah, a lot of shuffling happening with Raya and the Last Dragon. And it sounds like Disney maybe knows that they did Rose Tico dirty in Star Wars and is trying to make up for it by making her the latest in a long line of amazing Disney heroines.
Well, I'm happy that they didn't replace an actress of color with a white actress. I'm happy they went with another actress of color, and certainly Kelly Marie Tran. If you haven't seen the Facebook series that she does with Elizabeth Olsen, she's pretty fantastic in it. And for a lot of people to be like, "Oh, let me base my entire opinion of Kelly Marie Tran's acting ability on the Star Wars films," that's about as fair as basing your entire opinion of Natalie Portman's acting ability on those Star Wars on the prequel trilogy. So you got to create space for an actress like this to kind of find her way. She was one of us. She was a nerd just like us. She was going to improv classes. She was taking classes to try to get, and this gift came into her life that turned out to be at times like a bit of a curse. And she's pushed past it. And I think we as a society are changing with how we approach actresses and actors of color in the media. Yeah. Are there still trolls? There's still all those? Yes, there are minority of fans who are trolls for sure. But overall, I think what you're seeing over the last few weeks, last few months, is this change in the approach of appreciating actors of color. So I think this is a nice move by Disney. And kudos to Kelly Marie Tran to finding grace to accept this situation and accept being the lead in this film. And why wouldn't you? There aren't many Asian actresses, I think she's Vietnamese, that are cast in main roles in an animated film. So kudos to her for taking this and going forward with it. And I'm excited about it. I want to see what she can do with it. And the resurrection of Kelly Marie Tran from what she had to endure in those Star Wars films. I like that it's going forward so that she can be reappreciated by the general public more and more as she does more and more of this kind of work.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like that Kelly Marie Tran is still in the geek mix. I think that once you become a Disney princess or a Disney heroine, I'm not quite sure what Raya is just yet, but once you're in that club, that's a pretty good geeky club to be in. And yeah, I'm glad that she's around. I'm glad she's still here, and I'm glad that what happened to her on Star Wars did not ruin her, because holy shit, that'd be a lot for anybody to deal with. That is some rough stuff, which kind of leads naturally into our next topic, really. That's
right. Our next topic, and it's kind of our big topic before we jump into our interview with our friend Tim Sheridan. We should talk about, this is massive. John Boyega came out in this interview for British GQ, and he spoke more openly about his experience inside the Star Wars bubble. And I will say this, the entire interview, there's only 2 or 3 sections about Star Wars. Everything else is a great exploration of who John Boyega, the man, is now. So I can't encourage you all enough to read the entire article. Don't just grab the snippets out of another place. Read the entire article and really understand the process and the journey he's been on as a young black man into a black artist and then into a mature black artist, and what he's endured to become the man he is now. It's very fascinating, incredibly well-written article, so I can't encourage you enough to read it. But the things we're going to talk about, obviously, are the 3 sections in that interview dealing with Star Wars. He was asked about the situation, and the writer says that he wasn't necessarily jumping in to speak about it, but that he kind of found his way to reveal when he wanted to talk about, remember, on the heels of him taking the megaphone for about 5 minutes and talking about Black Lives Matter and talking about police brutality towards people of color that he did in Hyde Park, and he said, I might never work again. And of course, everyone came out of the woodworks and said, hell no, we want to work with you. Steve McQueen being one of them. He's got that new, new series, compilation series coming out.
Is it on the BBC?
Yeah, it's going to be on the BBC. It's going to be on the BBC.
On the BBC. On the BBC. On the BBC. Oh, the BBC.
The BBC. I think it's called Small Axe or Little Axe or something like that. And it's going to be, and Boyega plays plays a character in one of the stories. But in this interview, he talks about his experience in Star Wars, and he says, quote, "What I would say to Disney is do not bring out a black character, market them to be much more important in the franchise than they are, and then have them pushed to the side." And of course, he's talking about his character Finn, a stormtrooper who played an important role in the first movie, and then kind of became a background character along with Marie Tran with that Rose Tico situation coming out of The Last Jedi into Rise of Skywalker. He said he said he wasn't the only one cast aside. It was every person of color involved in the movies, including Naomi Ackie, Marie Tran, Oscar Isaac. He said, like, you guys knew what to do with Daisy Ridley. You knew what to do with Adam Driver. You knew what to do with these other people. But when it came to Kelly Marie Tran, when it came to John Boyega, you know, fuck all. So what do you want me to say? He did go on to say that it was an amazing opportunity and it was a stepping stone for himself as an artist. He said, what they want you to say is, I enjoyed being a part of it. It was a great experience. Nah. I'll take that deal when it is a great experience. They gave all the nuance to Adam Driver, all the nuance to Daisy Ridley. Let's be honest. Daisy knows this. And by the way, Daisy's good friends with John Boyega. Adam knows this. Everybody knows I'm not exposing anything. So, Michael, thoughts on what he had to say here, thoughts on his point of views, and just your feelings generally overall about John Boyega's outspokenness now as an actor of color demanding respect?
I mean, overall thought is like, he's right. I mean, I think what's been amazing is most of the positive reactions that I've seen to this GQ article and the Star Wars stuff in particular is it's not that anybody is surprised by what he says. Everyone who watched Star Wars knows that he's right, and that's clearly true. So it's not a shock. What's shocking is that he just said it. And most people wouldn't. I mean, he actually, I think, even says in the article that what you are supposed to say here is it was an amazing experience. I was so grateful for the opportunity, like all the stuff that every actor ever says about a role where they probably didn't really love it. And he said that's what he's supposed to say. And then he zigged and then he zagged and said, but that's not what I'm going to say. And I think that he's 100% right. Look, I love Last Jedi. I know that out of the three of us, I love it a lot more. But I do think that the Finn and Rose storyline is the weakest part of that movie. Oh yeah. And I think that the way that those two characters are, the way that he is sort of sidelined and Rose is introduced and then sidelined to go on this journey with him, and then where you see that both of their stories sort of piddle out in Rise of Skywalker, they try and give them stuff to do, or they try and give him stuff to do. Rose barely anything. I think he's 100% right. Like those characters were sidelined, that Disney came out strong in Force Awakens. I think, and to J.J. Abrams' defense, I think J.J. Abrams had big ideas for what he was going to do with Finn. And then I think nobody knew what to do with him. And I think that, you know, as we were just talking about Kelly Marie Tran kind of like surviving that Star Wars gauntlet that she had to go through and coming out the other side. I mean, the idea that you find out you've been cast in a Star Wars movie as an actor, and it's like the greatest thing you could ever think. Like, this is your key to the big time. This is amazing. This is all the awesome stuff you're going to get to do. And then to have this experience where you do feel like you're just shoved to the side, like that's horrible. I mean, he talks about how post Force Awakens, he had to really go into therapy and it was really hard. And like all the Twitter trolls and the Star Wars fandom, which as we know can be a little bit toxic. And speaking of, I've seen that today. I mean, you see the people that are literally pulling from the systemic racism handbook. You should be grateful for what you had. You weren't sidelined. You're in all three movies. You're just ungrateful. What are you talking about?
You kept coming back. Yeah. Why did you keep coming back so bad?
If you really hated it, why didn't you walk away? It's like, guys, just watch the movies and you know it's true. Like, we all know it's true. So
you don't walk away from your job that you hate. Why are you going to put the same points of views on an actor in this situation that you yourself aren't even doing in your own life? How many of you all who are commenting in the negative hate your jobs, but you know you got to keep it because there's a lifestyle you've grown accustomed to and you don't want to lose that lifestyle or lose the possibility of there not being a job out there, and you might lose your house or lose your apartment or wherever you live. So you can't also now not look at the way John Boyega is doing this too. He signed a contract. He honored his contract. He did what he had to do as an actor, but he's also coming into his own as a man. And as a man, he's finding his voice more and more. And that's what happens. So people pushing back against this have never either experienced this or have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And I'm happy that more and more people of color are coming out and calling out companies, calling out businesses, calling out everybody to be like, enough is enough. You white liberals, you white conservatives that step forward and try to cloak yourselves and defend yourselves in your caring of the whole world. Look at the way you're actually treating us. And Michael, I know I may be off base here, but I feel I need to say this. This goes all the way up the fucking chain. And all the way through JJ to Kathleen Kennedy to Bob Iger. He said he and a lot of people stated, and I think he says it in the interview too, they had a bigger role for him in the first movie. They came in at the last minute and made it about Ray instead, not about Finn as much. And that's a thing that you got to take a look at. And Kathleen Kennedy should bear the brunt of that. I'm not usually one of these people that goes after Kathleen Kennedy, but she needs to bear the brunt of this as a white woman, making a white woman the lead of her film and pushing aside the black character. That's something that has to be talked about as well. So
I think you're right. I actually have a couple of things to say about that. One, listen, we all know how I feel about Rise of Skywalker, but John Boyega does go out of his way to defend J.J. Abrams. And yes, I think that based on the reading the subtext of the interviews of everybody in Rise of Skywalker, I think that everyone kind of like John Boyega goes out of his way in the GQ article to say that like JJ wasn't even supposed to do this movie. He came in, he tried to do what he could. So as much as Boyega feels like he didn't have the best experience, he's clearly not blaming JJ. Right. And from a lot of the rumors and the Reddit article, JJ would have done Finn and Poe. He would have made them a thing. It would have been something like, I think that what you never know, to your point, John, whether it be JJ or Kathleen Kennedy or Iger or whoever it was, that you don't know who along that chain was fighting for one thing or the other thing. There's so much arguing and fighting and fighting the big fight and things fall through the cracks. And this is where I think it gets really interesting. And this is the real conversation that I think liberal Hollywood has to have with itself.
Yeah.
Liberal Hollywood at that top level, at that executive level, at that C-suite level is still largely white and largely male. And liberal Hollywood is liberal. You know, the GOP reminds us of this every single day. And this is where systemic racism becomes a little bit more insidious. It's easy to call out the overt racists. It's easy to call out the people that say we should never have a black lead. We should not give black people starring roles. Right. We should not do this. In the case of Star Wars, what really seemed to happen was a largely or completely white group of creatives who were trying to navigate this. How do we tell Star Wars? How do we create something on the level of George Lucas? How do we create something? Was trying to find their way and landed on this Rey and Kylo sort of will they or won't they, the two sides of the Force, the dark and the light, and said, ooh, here's a good story, and just went with it. It wasn't intentional, but what happens, and with systemic racism, is completely unintentionally, you sidelined every person of race. Completely unintentionally, you focus on the way people.
If you want to say unintentionally, I respect that. That's your opinion. I don't think it was unintentional. I think it was intentional.
What I'm telling you, and this is where liberal Hollywood needs to face itself.
Yeah.
The unintentional racism in a lot of ways is worse than intentional. It's easy for us to all say, oh, a bunch of white people got behind the doors and lit their evil racist cigars and said, haha, let's focus on the white people. That's not really what happens most of the time. And I think that this concept of unintentional racism, the unintentional choices you make that continue to reaffirm systemic racism are a lot harder to see. And because it's unintentional, and because you think that you're a liberal person, because you say Black Lives Matter, because you donate to the right causes,
exactly.
you don't realize what you are doing. I have seen this happen so many times. I have been in rooms where a group of white executives are hearing pitches from different people on a brand or a concept. And you have the white people who come in and pitch their project, their concept, their take. And then you have a black person or person of color or whatever. And because their frame of reference is different, you don't say, I don't like the Latin take. But you naturally go, well, like, I feel like I relate more to this one. And you're like, of course you relate more to that. You're white. So what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is that I don't think that you don't go and cast a black person as one of your 3 main roles in your Star Wars movie, in your brand new trilogy, and then intentionally say, let's sideline him. We think black people aren't that important. What you do is you do it and you say, this is good. We're going to do this big story. And then you get more interested in the story that you relate to more because you are white, and you just ignore these other roles. And I think this is why you need better representation behind the camera. This is why you need better representation in the executive level of studios, because you have the people that are going to sit in the room and be like, guys, the fuck are you doing? This is dumb. In the case of Finn particularly, you had this character who was a stormtrooper who walked away, which is something we had never seen in Star Wars before. You had this idea that the other stormtroopers looked at him as a traitor, as flap guy, whatever we call flap guy from Force Awakens with his flappity, calls him a traitor. You have this relationship with Captain Phasma, which clearly nobody knew what to do with, because she gets it just as bad as anybody. Here's this amazing character that Finn versus Phasma could have been this huge arc. The stormtrooper who walked away, the stormtrooper who inspired other stormtroopers to walk away. Like, there is a wealth of story that could have been delved into here that kind of got pushed to the side because of whether you want to blame Rian Johnson and his Canto Bight adventure, or you want to blame Kathleen Kennedy or whoever that said, let's really focus on Kylo and Rey. So look, I'm not saying, to your point, Johnny, I'm not saying unintentional racism to try and excuse it. And I'm not saying unintentional racism to try and make it less than, or it's not as bad. I'm saying it because, having been on both sides of this, I think the unintentional racism is a bigger problem than the intentional. The intentional is easy to deal with. Somebody's racist, get them the fuck out. The unintentional kind of happens in little ways every day. And I think that what we see with Star Wars is that maximized to a macro level on the biggest brand in the world.
Yeah. And look, I hear your point of view, and we've battled back and forth, had different points of view about race for many years now. We've had conversations about it both on this show and off this show. And I would say to you, the unintentional racism was created by a white person to explain their inability to be more conscientious about the stories they're telling. And it takes away some of the blame, in my opinion, because unintentional by definition implies it wasn't my intention. But so for me, that is a nice shield that I see liberal Hollywood using. I see it on SAG. They sent out a mailer to us, and there was a seminar on unintentional racism. I don't think that actually legitimately exists. What it is that you're not, you are a person who thought it was okay to make this decision, and you never like really kind of sat down with it, because that's the thing. If you're looking at a character and you're going to cast, and this is the thing, Mike, I know you're right. You say, well, they cast John Boyega, they cast Oscar Isaac, they cast a woman as the lead. You can even go to that level, regardless of her color. It's still a white lead, female lead in Star Wars. These were 3 things you were taking on at the same time here in this situation. So you should have been way more conscientious, way more understanding. We've seen black characters get cast in sci-fi movies all the time and horror movies all the time. The biggest joke was they're usually the first ones to die to kind of inspire the white character to be a hero. The black character has to die. So we've seen black characters, people of color, be cast all the time in these movies. They just get killed off most of the time because they're used to help the white character. Well, I think what we're saying now, and what you're hearing from actors of color now, and thank God, and I think a lot of us have been saying this for many, many years, is thanks for casting me. Now develop a nuanced, complex, interesting character for me to play, so that I can, represent something more powerful to my community. We started the show talking about Chadwick Boseman. If they had written a two-dimensional Black Panther or one-dimensional Black Panther movie, it would have been directed by white man. It would have been such a massive letdown to the Black community. So I think Star Wars now, and we see this with Mandalorian, and I'm really happy with what they're doing. Yes, two guys in charge, two white dudes, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, but they've brought in Rick Famuyiwa, they brought in Deborah Chow, they've brought in other voices, even Bryce Dallas Howard as a woman coming in. They've brought other voices to direct these episodes of the show to show you that Star Wars is universal. It is not the primary place of not owned primarily by white people. It is owned by everybody. So all these different perspectives have to be involved. So I think this is a powerful thing that John is saying, and I applaud him for saying it. And I see, hopefully, that's the change we're going to see going forward in the Star Wars universe and in every universe, to be honest with you, a more appreciation, understanding that just casting people of color is not enough anymore. You have to cast them and give them just as interesting and layered and complex a role as you give the white lead that you've done traditionally for numerous decades. So I hope that's what happens.
No, I think you're right. And look, you and I could go back and forth on the differences between overt racism and unintentional racism and how it all relates back to systemic racism. But I think where I think you're 100% right is living in the time we live now. You're not allowed to be unintentionally racist anymore. If that was ever okay, if it was ever okay to be like, I wasn't thinking about this, we no longer live in the era where you can say you weren't thinking about it. We are talking about it all the time. The Black community is talking about it all the time. People of color are talking about it all the time. It is now time that you have to be aware of it. And I think that, to your point, John Boyega doing what he's doing, Ray Fisher on Justice League, doing what he is doing. It's important that they do it. And I think, like you said, opening things up with Chadwick Boseman and the roles that he took and what T'Challa meant to people and what Ryan Coogler did with that movie, we've raised the bar and we've raised the level of expectations as we should. So I say, kudos to John Boyega.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw that in a micro way with our friend Saria Blue, who was cast in that I Feel Bad sitcom on NBC by Amy Poehler. And NBC did not promote that sitcom as powerfully as they promoted other sitcoms who were led by white leads. So that's the kind of stuff you have to be aware of nowadays and get called out for it, rightfully so, by not just the media, but also the fans, also the viewers. That has to be a part of it. So hopefully this is a massive systemic change. I'm tired of seeing liberal Hollywood go, oh, you bad conservatives, we all okay, and be afraid to look at themselves. No, you got to look at yourself as well and change those things so you don't end up like the thing you're pointing at, and that's really important. So anyway, all right, Mike, let's jump into this interview. Do you want to intro our guest, please, before we start?
Yeah, are we taking a break and then going to him?
Oh yeah, maybe we should. We'll take a quick break for our sponsors. Let me throw a little thing up here so I know where to put the break in the audio, and we'll be right back after this. Hey everyone, welcome to this special interview here on the Geek Buddies with one of our longtime Geek Buddies that we couldn't be more excited to welcome to the show. He currently has an incredible animated film out right now called Superman, Man of Tomorrow. You've watched his work in stuff like Lego DC Superhero Girls, Justice League Action, Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost, The Death and Return of Superman, Sergeant Rock, Legend Quest, some more DC superhero girl stuff, and Reign of the Superman. And as I just mentioned, he currently has out this film now, Superman, Man of Tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Geek Buddies, our friend, writer, and overall genuinely awesome dude, Tim Sheridan. How are you, Tim?
I'm really great. Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be here. For you to just read down my IMDb.
Well, listen, like, they didn't send me an official bio for you, so I did my best.
They don't know who I am. Our publicist.
You just email in words, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll take these. We can run with that."
That's exactly right. We can probably put these in some kind of order that makes sense.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah.
I am so excited to be here. We have to explain to
Yes.
people who don't
Yeah.
know
Right.
that we are old, not just geek buddies, but college buddies.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, like so. Yeah.
What's that?
Well, no, I was going to say, like, as we like to say, like, what we like about the Geek Buddies is as much as John and Shannon and I have worked in the industry and been friends for years, so many of our friends kind of came out to LA, followed different paths, similar paths, circuitous paths, but that we have so many friends that are doing awesome things. And yeah, I was talking to you about this before we set up the interview about how here you are writing Superman, Man of Tomorrow. And I actually remember being in college as a freshman, watching the first episode of Bruce Timm's Superman Adventures in your apartment with you, since we were all Florida State students together.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a minute.
First of all, let me explain to you that I forgot that because I'm old and I don't remember anything. But yes, and that must have been like your first semester at school or something, right?
Yeah.
You were
I
like
think so.
brand new.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
remember like you were like the ultimate extrovert. I think you probably still are.
Yes. Very
Yeah,
much.
I think that's still accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me to like to invite somebody over to watch Superman, who I just met, that's a big commitment. So
Yeah.
you obviously made a big impression.
It clearly worked out for all of us because here we are. So you made the right choice.
Yeah, clearly.
Butch Lukic, who's the supervising producer of Man of Tomorrow, was a storyboard artist on that premiere of Superman the Animated Series. I mean, who would have thought that, these many, many years later that I'd be working for him?
It's
Well,
awesome.
It's an incredible film. The basic plot synopsis is Daily Planet intern Clark Kent takes learning on the job to new extremes when Lobo and Parasite set their sights on Metropolis. It's got an incredible cast here. Tim, Darren Criss, Zachary Quinto, Alexandra Daddario, who's fantastic. Neil Flynn, Bellamy Young is in this as well. So many great voiceover people are involved in this project, and you wrote words for them. How did you get involved with this? You'd written Reign of the Superman, so was this just the next logical step? Did they come to you, or did you pitch them with this story?
No, it was. I had done some work. I'd worked for my first real job in animation was on a show called Justice League Action,
Right,
and I got brought
Which is a
in.
great show.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a great show, and unfortunately, a lot of people didn't see it because it got kind of programmed into oblivion. But if you can find it now, I think it's streaming now, and it's great. I think people really tend to, really gravitate to it.
Mm.
The supervising producer of that show was Butch Lukic. Jim Creek was a producer on that show as well. They, Alan Burnett, the great Alan Burnett, that's where I met him and kind of learned, a lot of what I'm doing now from that guy. But we did Reign of the Supermen, and then they were getting ready to do a new movie. And Butch, having worked with Butch and Jim, they happily called me, and we sat down and started plotting out sort of what the kind of Superman story we wanted to tell as a movie. We were very lucky because we didn't have the demands on us of continuing in the sort of storyline of all the movies that had come before. We were really getting to do a standalone story. And so, we just, that's how I got into it. I had done some stuff happily with those guys, and they liked what I was doing and called me back.
Well, that's good. So a question about that, though. I mean, super love this. Like, I really, thankfully, like whenever you're going to interview your friend about something, whenever you're going to interview your friend, you watch it and there's a little bit of trepidation. You're like, hope I...
Look, we're all actors at Florida State. We know what we say. That was really great work. That was great work. Yeah.
Hey, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great. Guys, I can tell.
Great costumes. Great costumes.
You really knew your lines.
The costumes were amazing.
The best somebody said, like when you see someone who had a really bad performance or wrote something really bad and they ask you how it is, you just go, hey, you really did something. You really did something. But no, actual question for you. There's been so many in comics, in animation. As I said, like that's what made me think about it. Watching the first episode of Superman Adventures with you, like how do you tackle an origin that's been told so many times? You guys had such a different take, such a fresh take. You sort of rearranged a lot of the characters who we expect to see. Some of the characters that we know we're going to see, we saw in a different way. Like it's a tall order to kind of retell the Superman origin story. How did you tackle it? Where did you begin? What did you want to do differently going into this?
Okay, here's where we get into why it is so great to be here with you two and talking to you about this movie, because if I was doing any other interview with anyone, I would be respectful. But with you,
oh great, all right.
I get to say
thank you.
It is not exactly I think we're really stretching the definition of an origin story if you call this movie an origin for Superman. When we started talking about it, we said, look, we're not going to do, literally the first thing we said when we sat down, we said, we're not going to do an origin story. We can't do an origin story. So we're just not going to do it. So what we will do is let's do a coming of age story early in Superman's life and career. And so what we thought was that, if you look at the great canon of Superman, that there's not a lot that depicts the early first year, say, in Metropolis. And so let's come at it from that perspective. What is it like, for him at that age, I'd say, 23 or 24, starting his life in the world, being who he is. This is great because we kind of all came out to LA around that same time. We all left college together. We all came out and started our lives. And the way I think of it, and I don't know if you guys think of it this way, but I think of it as like sort of playing at being a grown-up for a few years, when you're just like, okay, I've got my own place and I got a job and look at me, I'm paying my bills, and it doesn't feel real, but you go through those motions because that's what an adult is. I think that's where we, I wanted to find Clark Kent, in that moment. And then, you come to realize that, this is actually just what being a grown-up is. Like, it's just all sort of faking it and paying the bills.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was territory that hadn't been really covered in a big way. And so it was a good way in. And especially being coming of age for him, there was a lot to look into in terms of like, what makes him put on the suit? What are his motivations to become Superman? Not just, we said it was kind of Act 2, right, for Superman.
Right.
Act 1, Krypton, the rocket ship, Kansas, the Superboy, even the Legion. But then Act 2 is, it's the beginning of Clark Kent. I think early on, Jim Krieg said, like, kind of the motto when we started talking story was, this is a job for Clark Kent. That was sort of our North Star at the beginning. And so that was our way in. And, and I'll fight you if you try to call it an origin story.
I mean, I will respectfully say that I really like this movie that is not an origin story that shows Clark putting on the suit for the first time, meeting Lois for the first time, fighting his first big bad guy, working with Lex Luthor for the first time, but it's not an origin story. I hear what you're saying.
It sounds like a coming of age story. I think that's more. I can see that. All they're missing is a dead body that they're all going out to find.
Now that I think about it, I probably should watch this movie. Does that happen in the movie?
One of the things that and we're not going to give away the movie because you guys should definitely get it. It's available now for digital. It's also out there for disc. When's it out there for disc? Is it coming soon?
Yeah, so you can download it now on VOD, and it'll be on digital 4K Blu-ray on September 8th.
There you go. So really, really soon after this interview drops, you can go pick it up. It's definitely worth picking up. You got some great characters in here, Tim. I mean, who came up with the idea of Lobo? Was this something you definitely wanted to have in the script? Like you were desperate to put this in there? It's this fantastic voiceover work there by the actor who plays Lobo. And
Ryan Hurst.
Yeah, Ryan Hurst. And it's so funny because like it's a character that you would normally hate, but there's that kind of gruff charm about him. As much as you might not like it, there's kind of a gruff charm about him. So was there a challenge for you, because it's such a beloved character? Was there a challenge for you trying to get Lobo right in your writing?
You know what's horrifying is how easy Lobo's voice came to me in the writing process.
Do you just drink a lot of whiskey and then just start typing? Because that...
I mean, it actually, I'm not kidding. I mean, I sat there in an office at Warner Brothers typing this, and just these lines for Lobo just kept happening. And I thought, I'm really, at some point I thought I was, you prepare, you're like, I'm gonna have to end up doing a Lobo dialogue pass later. As it's happening, I'm like, no, this sounds right.
These limericks are great. These limericks totally work.
What kind of monster am I? This just comes to my head. Butch came in day one and said, we got to have, let me do my Butch impression. We're going to have Lobo in the story. I want Lobo. so we knew right from the beginning we were going to have Lobo. And what was great about that was I love, when I get some kind of little tidbit like that, it's like, okay, let my mind sort of go crazy. What is it about Lobo that's interesting in a Superman story? Well, they're both the last of their people. They're both aliens. And then, that was what led to sort of Martian Manhunter being a character in it as well. I thought, not to get in too deep here, but I thought about sort of the psychological makeup of, the alien hero. And, the id, the superego, and the ego that's moderating between the two. And Superman is the ego moderated between the id that is Lobo and the superego that is Martian Manhunter. And then it was like all those pieces started falling into place.
Yeah.
And and I said, let's make a movie.
Well, and to bring it up, like Johnny said, I don't want to get into too many spoilers because I think that it really is a joy to watch. And there's so many fun surprises if you're a hardcore fan of the DC universe. One thing I do want to delve into, though, is one of the things that we talk about a lot here on the Geek Buddies is Zack Snyder and Zack Snyder's take on Superman.
Why are you bringing this up? Why are you bringing this up? Right.
Here's why I'm bringing it up, because one of the things that I often say, and I've said it on the show and I've said it as we discuss it, is one of the things that I don't like about Zack Snyder is his take on Jonathan Kent as being very sort of basically telling his son, you should not go out and show people who you are. And
I'm afraid that you're going to be poked and prodded by a government that was intrusive and will invade your privacy.
And what I want to say, without getting into too many spoilers, is what I really liked about Man of Tomorrow, which made me eat my words a little bit, is it clearly is not that take of Jonathan Kent that I dislike, because you travel in some of the very similar territories, dealing with these aliens, dealing with the xenophobia, dealing with some of the same issues that Snyder wanted to deal with. I just think you deal with them better in a much more nuanced way as someone who actually gets Superman better than Zack Snyder does. So I wanted to give you that credit because I really did see, and I will say, all Snyder knocks aside, if you do like that take of Snyder's, if you do like the fact that we really do focus on Superman being an outsider, being an alien, as you were saying, between Lobo, between Martian Manhunter, between Superman, Man of Tomorrow really delves into that territory, but has a slightly different way in on it, a slightly different take that I think is a great balance between what Snyder tried to do with balancing out with classic Superman. So props to you, because you sold me on something that I thought I wouldn't like, and I did.
Well, thank you for that. I have a couple of thoughts about this. First of all, I don't like to sort of talk about other creators and what they're doing and what they've made, but I have to actually come out in defense of Zack Snyder a little bit sometimes, because I think that sometimes his take on Superman is a little bit more nuanced than people give it credit for.
Yes.
Whoa. Let the man talk, Johnny.
Let the man talk? All right, go ahead, Tim.
No, but I think that, when I watch Henry Cavill and I see him in the situations that he's, that Zack Snyder puts him in, I think that he is still this optimistic beacon of hope. It's just that the demands of doing a big budget live action studio feature film, there's a different type of story that audiences, I think, are expecting than what we get to do, in animation and in comics. And, I think it's a tough job to balance, the needs and the wants of the audience with, what you expect from that character. And I think that character still in his movies is, still manages to be Superman in spite of these, incredible odds, the kind of odds that we don't necessarily put him in this movie. Although there are big stakes, there's big action, but it's it's not necessarily the cosmic brawl right out the gate that you get with Zach. I think that there's room in the multiverse for all kinds of takes on Superman and on all these characters. And, I think we can enjoy all of them for different reasons. So that's that. In terms of Pa Kent, I found this is funny. Like my idea of Jonathan Kent is not a guy who tells his kid to hide and be careful. I thought the same thing. I've always thought that. I thought, no, you should encourage him to be Superman. It's sort of that Uncle Ben kind of way. But when I sat down, I suddenly had a need in the story for that viewpoint. And I suddenly found, as the voice of the character was coming out, and this may be where Zack Snyder was coming from, it's his dad, And what's the first most important thing that his dad is going to say to his son, who he knows the world could be a real danger for? He tells him, protect yourself at all costs, because you're so precious to me that you have to protect yourself. He's willing to put us, even if he has the ideals of you have to get out there and save the world and use your powers for good. Even if he feels that, he doesn't say it because he's a dad. And I think that's true to what a dad would feel and would say. So it made sense in this story and in the context of the movie. But again, there's a great rich multiverse, and there's different versions of Jonathan too. So
for sure. Well, and I do think, but I mean, again, props to you, because I love everything you said about that. I was looking around online at what other people are saying about your movie. Well, and actually, I am not the only one that picked up on the similarities here, and I am also not the only one that was much more complimentary towards your take on it. I think that your portrayal of both Jonathan and Martha Kent created a little bit more of a argument and discussion about what to do with Clark and his powers. And I think similarly, in the way that you portrayed this younger, more ambitious, to your point, I'm acting like the grown-up, I've moved to the big city and I don't quite know what I'm doing. I think you created a Clark Kent who was a bit more actively seeking to be a hero. So I think you did a lot of really, really good stuff. So regardless of the comparisons to Zack Snyder, I think that this does create a really fun and interesting world for Superman to play in.
I mean, and Darren Criss, he just knocks me out.
Yeah.
He was such the right guy to play this version of Superman.
He was.
There's an earnestness to him that is a joy to experience again, because sometimes you do forget how much you enjoy the old Christopher. There were Christopher Reeve vibes to what he was doing that I picked up on. The flat. I do want to give away one thing, and this is the flashback to his coming to Earth. The animation in that particular sequence. Do you know what influenced the animation there? Because that to me felt like one of those limited series that they did with Superman, and I can't remember what it was, because the animation of Jor-El and Kal-El's mom there, it looked like a different type of style of animation. And is that an homage to a series in the comic books?
I wish. First of all, I had no idea what you were talking about when you said flashback to when he arrived. I was like, no, that's not his arrival. But no, you're talking about when they're looking on the Kryptonian holographic viewer. Here's an interesting piece of information that nobody else has, that I'm going to get in trouble for telling you.
Okay,
but
perfect.
There was a scene that was cut later in the movie in which we explain what that device is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a Jedi. It's a Jedi holocron.
Clearly.
That's right.
You're marrying the universes. I respect it.
I think it. I'm sure it's cut. Right. It's not in the movie. Right.
It's not in the movie.
What it is,
no,
right?
It's not.
Clark. It's an historical record, and Clark refers to it as it's a newspaper.
Yeah.
So he's getting all this information about his people. The design elements, I wish I could speak to, because that's Butch Lukic and Chris Palmer and designers like Otto Schmidt, who's a comic book artist that came in and did a lot of work on the movie. They had these amazing sort of takes. I love how otherworldly Jor-El and Lara look in that.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost Greek-like. It's almost Greek-like in the way they're designed for that remembrance of that, compared to the modern day animation that they're using in that moment for everybody else.
You almost want to see a scene on Krypton where everybody looks like that. And
right.
But hey, there's no time for that. We got to get to Paris.
One other question about the design. Did you guys have a sexy booty quota to hit? Because there's a lot of butts.
I mean, Lois Lane's butt is pretty prominent in this movie. There's a lot
of. Well, we don't see her naked butt. We see a lot of naked.
But
we see some naked boy butts.
There. Yeah,
we see some naked boy butts.
Yeah, that's true.
Get naked boy butt, right?
Yeah, we do. That's PG-13.
There was nothing I could do. And it's in the script. I said. We had him wearing street clothes as the flying man over Metropolis, and it was important for him to discover that if he leaves the exosphere, that solar radiation can be more effective for him, and he can sort of power up more quickly. And but that meant that he had to re-enter the atmosphere in those street clothes, and I thought, well,
ain't gonna fly. Doesn't work.
As a geek, it's like I can't watch that movie and see him come down in perfect clothes. Of course the clothes go away. They burn up. They're gone.
That's fair.
And so he had to be naked. It's right there in the script.
Super D.
Naked. In fact, there's a line in which when he pulls Lobo out of this crater, and he's beat him and he's holding him, and in the action in the script, it explains that he's holding him in just such a way to cover all the bits we ought not see.
Yes,
he really did too. He kind of held Lobo up, and he was like, "I am going to hold this in front of my super junk, so that we're all safe here."
It had to be PG-13. It had to be PG-13.
How precious were you with the relationship between Lois and Clark? As Michael said earlier, great point. We're seeing the kind of pseudo origin story for Clark Kent / Superman in this movie, coming of age, what have you, but we're also seeing the beginnings of this relationship between Lois and Clark, which is in essence its own origin story, the origin of this romance. So how precious were you and how you wrote that, and how important was it for you to get that right and not feel like you were just copying what had come before?
Well, yeah, I mean, there were that day one meeting, one of the big things we talked about was Lois Lane. I mean, Butch and Jim Krieg and I all came at this the same way. We all kind of had the same sensibilities, and you probably share them, which is that any great Superman story involves Lois Lane. We have to see Superman through Lois's eyes, because Superman sees the world through Lois. She is kind of the best representation of humanity that he has found. And that's, I think, where the love is in that relationship. And in loving her, he loves us. That's kind of the thing with Superman, I think. So we all felt that going in. We knew that you had to get Lois right, but there was an interesting challenge, because this was going to have to be sort of their first meeting. And we didn't really feel like you could earn in the course of this one movie them jumping into a romantic relationship right away. So you have to see the beginning spark of that, knowing where it's going to go. So that left, what is it that Lois brings to Clark and to Superman in this story? And it ultimately hung on their professional relationship, which is half of their relationship. They have a personal romantic relationship, but they also work together and they have a professional relationship. Yeah. And so that was, Jim Krieg said, where does Superman, where else would he learn guile, and how to take a risk, roll the dice, that farm boy from Kansas, he's going to learn that from Lois. And so he sees that right from the beginning of when he sees her for the first time in the movie. He sees her do something extraordinary as a budding journalist that sets her apart from everybody, that was risky on her part. And he immediately recognizes it as that's how you get ahead. That's, you have to walk the tightrope a little bit, which he's going to need to do in the movie. He, ultimately what the climax of the movie comes down to him taking the biggest risk of his life up to that point. And that is, we know Superman fights for truth, justice, and the American way, but the first among them is the truth. And so he has to come to terms with the truth and tell the truth to everyone.
Tell the truth. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Mikey, you have a final question before we wrap up here?
I do.
Wrap up?
We're at the
I know.
30-minute mark.
Listen, we could be here all day. We could start with the reminiscing, and we could be here all day. One final question. So clearly, you guys put a lot of thought, a lot of heart into this, and everyone is always talking about the right way to tell a Superman story, why this Superman story worked, why this Superman story didn't work. And so, in your estimation, as someone who has written him a few times now, what is the key to cracking a great Superman story?
Oh, good question.
Well, now I'm going to have to come up with a better answer than the one I just gave. Which is, you got to get Lois. You got to get Lois right. So let me think of a better one. I think Superman is at his best as a character, as an archetype for us, when we see something of ourselves in him. And which is always ironic because he is supposedly an alien, right? And I say supposedly because he's the most human of all of us, I think. And the more we can identify with him in his circumstances as someone who is seemingly all powerful, how do you identify with someone who has the powers of a god, right? But if you can do that, then that's the way in, and that's how we keep Superman relevant. That's how he remains relevant. That's how he keeps us understanding how relevant he is. In this movie, it was all about what it feels like, what it means to be an outsider. And I say that in general terms because it wasn't specifically like an immigration allegory, although you can see that in any Superman story, really. But in this one, where there's 3 different aliens here who are all, the last survivors of their people, it was broader than that, so that everyone could find a way in. And I think that's the way to tell a story like this. For me, it was about being a closeted gay kid in Central Florida in the 90s. That was.
Hey, I can relate to that.
Right? That was how I felt like an outsider, and how I felt like the world was going to be against me for the rest of my life. And it motivated it motivated all my choices, all my decisions. And that's, to me, that's something we can all understand, whether that's your story or whether your story is an immigration story or anything. We all have at some time in our lives felt like an outsider, felt different. So to see Kal-El go through that and hopefully triumph, I think means there's hope for all of us. And that's I think what's at the heart of telling a good Superman story.
Oh, that's a great answer and a fantastic way to end this interview. For Michael Vogel, we can't thank you enough, Tim, for dropping the mic like that in talking about this awesome new movie that is out now, Superman, Man of Tomorrow. As you said, it's out on VOD and digital now. You can pick it up physically on September 8th in 4K and other versions there to watch. This is one you don't want to miss. This is actually, WB Animation has done some incredible work over the last few years, and this is another one to throw in the lexicon of some really great stuff and boundary pushing stuff that they're doing in animation, which is fun to watch.
I think, Naked Superman. But I will say, like, one of the things that I think this is great as well, like, I as a super DC geek love all of the DC direct-to-DVD movies. They really make them for the fans. They really do that. A lot of them are made so much for the fans that they're not necessarily the movie that you could show a non-fan. And I think what's great about Superman, Man of Tomorrow is if you are a Superman fan, if you're a DC Comics fan, and you want to show one of your friends who's not necessarily in this world, in comics, something that's really going to show them what the world can do, this is a great entry point. Yeah. Show them Man of Tomorrow. It's a great introduction to these characters. As Tim said, it's a great year 2 follow-up to the origin story that's not really an origin story, Superman, Man of Tomorrow.
There you go. Tim, anything you want to promote or push?
No, I just want to thank you guys. I want to promote you. I want to promote this show. Well, you guys are great. I can't believe that, it takes getting a call from the publicist to tell me that, we're going to get together. To do this. I can't wait until we stop recording and can, talk about all the crazy times back at school.
Agreed.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, let's wrap this thing up so we can talk about the good stuff.
Absolutely. And some crazy times in LA as well. I remember those Hawaiian shirts. Great stuff, Tim. All right. Well, follow Tim at I am Tim Sheridan and definitely pick this one up or watch it on VOD and digital. Superman Man of Tomorrow. We'll talk. Wow. Mike, pretty awesome to sit down with our old buddy Tim Sheridan. I mean, we've known him for 20 some years. And there were a number of years where he was kind of wandering around in the universe, wondering what he was going to do. So to see him kind of find his way to this situation now and find success as a writer, as a creative, and have some good feedback from so many talented people and people higher up in the chain than him at this point is certainly a joy to experience and listen to his thoughts about his experiences making Superman Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah, and look, like we say all the time, and like we said in the interview, the fun part about Geek Buddies is that we have so many buddies that are doing these awesome things. And we have people at all different levels of the industry, and whenever any of them has success, it's kind of success for everybody. It's fun to see. So definitely go check out Man of Tomorrow. And I'm so sad that Shannon missed all this. We had so much. It was a good one.
I know Tim Sheridan he's put Shannon on his list. On his crap list, so he's gonna, Shannon, you're gonna have to work hard to get back on Tim Sheridan's good list for sure.
Is that Steve Buscemi? Is that Steve Buscemi and Billy Madison who has the list
with the lipstick? Yeah, he's got to cross
the lipstick. That's what Shannon's got right now. Shannon's got to make up for it before things get bad. He doesn't want to get Buscemi'd.
You don't want to get Buscemi. Nobody wants to get Buscemi, that's for sure. All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Geek Buddies. Shannon is not here to tell you our social media stuff. So all I can tell you is follow. Where do they follow us, Mike? Do you know?
Don't come to me. I don't do this part.
Hold on. Let me find it. I should have had it prepped before. Okay. You can follow us on Twitter at geek_buddies. I'm not sure where you can follow us on Instagram, but you can certainly follow Mike at MK2, and you can follow me at the Rocha Says if you want to, kind of give us an idea of what you felt. And if you want to follow us on Instagram at the Geek Buddies, it's _geek_buddies on Instagram. Follow us there as well. There you go.
Shannon, we are lost without you. We can't. we clearly cannot do this part. This is like we are a mess. We have failed. But if you're still with us, after that piss poor how to follow us bit,
what? Do the best I can.
We love doing this. We love engaging with all you guys. So definitely like this video, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw page, leave comments below, hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up there, ask us whatever. We love to talk to you there. And definitely, if you're listening to us on Anchor or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to this podcast, stop, give us some ratings, give us some comments, and spread us around on Facebook, spread us around on Twitter, and tell everybody that if they want to have some fun, geeky conversations where we get into some super big debates but never leave angry, Geek Buddies is the place to do it. And we will see you guys next time.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like all the things that Michael said. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of The
Geek Buddies.
Hey!